It's time for your weekly dose of Professor MJ's NFL betting picks. This video will present a prediction for each of the 12 games that will take place Sunday, December 7th, 2025. Last week, we observed results that were similar to what we got multiple times in the past. The free plays generated mitigated success, whereas the weekly NFL Lobster Bet was a winner. Let's dive into the details. First, the free picks I shared with you on YouTube posted a 7-8 record against the spread. Not so good. However, those of you who invested in my very best product on the market, the NFL's weekly Lobster Bet, were rewarded once again. In case you are not familiar with the concept yet, we're talking about what I believe to be the absolute best wager of the week in the NFL on sides or totals. In week 13, my final selection was the Houston Texans plus 4.5 points in Indianapolis. They won the game outright by a margin of 4 points, so it was a clear winner. This means that since I began offering this high confidence betting tip last year in week 14, we have picked up 16 wins, 6 losses, and 1 tie. That corresponds to a stunning 72% winning rate. If you are sick of losing money, it's time to act. Sign up for week 14's NFL Lobster Bet now by following the link below in the comments. And if the pick loses, you get fully refunded. Here is a key tip though. Act quickly to make sure you get the most advantageous line. Last week, I shared the Houston pick on Wednesday at 11:08 a.m. Eastern Time. At that time, the best line was the Texans plus 4.5 points at minus 110 odds. Later on, the point spread dropped to 4 and then 3.5. Beating the closing line by a full point in the NFL is huge. If you consistently beat closing lines, you will make a profit in the long run. Guaranteed. It's time to boost your bankroll now, so go ahead and follow the link below to join our large group of savvy sports investors who are growing their bankrolls. I invite you to pause this video, subscribe for the Lobster Bet, and come back to watch the rest of the picks. I'll wait for you. The first game on the menu features Seattle against Atlanta. Right now, the Seahawks are viewed as 7.5 point favorites, and my final call regarding this NFC matchup is to bet the Falcons plus 7.5. We are starting to see some cracks in Sam Darnold's armor. During the course of his first 6 games this year, he accumulated 11 TD passes versus 3 interceptions. Now, across his past 6 games, he has tossed 8 TDs and 7 picks. Not nearly as good, right? Also, Seattle will need to travel across 3 time zones to play an early 1 p.m. game. That corresponds to 10 a.m. body clock for Seattle players, which is never ideal. Moreover, the Falcons have the famous revenge factor on their side. They will be looking to avenge a 34-14 home loss against those same Seahawks last year. In that game, the stats were pretty even, but Kirk Cousins threw a couple of interceptions and fumbled the ball once, which really cost them the game. The veteran signal caller will be looking to make amends this Sunday. Speaking of Cousins, he will need to be at its best against Seattle's tough defense. Last week, Cousins managed to avoid turnovers and got sacked just 2 times, but his team still lost in New York. He completed 21 of 33 passes for 234 yards, which is fine. According to head coach Raheem Morris, star wide receiver Drake London has a chance to suit up this week. However, he failed to register any practice last week, so personally, I am not counting on it. If he suits up on Sunday, that would boost my confidence about this pick. In order for the Falcons to cover the spread, they will need Bijan Robinson to make some damage. He's been in great shape recently, as evidenced by the fact that he has averaged exactly 100 rushing yards over his past 4 outings. So, all in all, I would not feel comfortable betting Seattle to win by 8 points or more on the road against a very decent Falcons defense that can rush opposing QBs. A few weeks ago, the Seahawks lost in Los Angeles. Then they won by 6 points only in Tennessee against the worst NFL club. Last week they won 26-0, but the offense only managed to score a single TD. Again, Seattle remains a good club, but we are starting to see some signs of weakness. For all of these reasons, I have decided to place a wager on the Falcons plus 7.5 points at home against the Seahawks. Joe Burrow came back last week and he had an immediate impact. He led his team to a superb 32-14 victory in Baltimore. Burrow also had a lot of success in his career against Sean McDermott's defense, so I am betting the Bengals plus 6 at Highmark Stadium this weekend. Did you know that Joe Burrow owns a perfect 8-0 record across his last 8 starts? That is amazing! Now, this wager will be declared a winner if Cincinnati either wins straight up or loses by 5 points or fewer. That seems like a very plausible scenario to me. Buffalo's offense has not been clicking that well this year. They sorely miss reliable receivers who can get open. Tight end Dalton Kincaid may return to action this week, but he's not necessarily a world beater. His presence will help Josh Allen, but he's not a savior either. Speaking of Josh Allen, he is 0-3 ATS in his career against the Bengals. Last week, the Bills played without their 2 starting tackles on the offensive line. Will they be back this week? That seems uncertain at the moment, but it's certainly a source of concern for Bills fans. On the other side, wide receiver T. Higgins could return. As of now, he remains in the concussion protocol, but he may be able to clear it in time. We'll see how it goes. Strangely enough, Cincinnati's defense plays a lot better when Burrow is in the lineup. They have given up just 18.9 points per game in his last 8 starts, compared to 35.2 without him this year. That's weird, but it's a marked difference that cannot be ignored. Maybe they are just more motivated when Burrow is on the field? Who knows? No matter what, this is not going to be a walk in the park for the Bills. Their offense is not clicking and the run defense is abysmal. Give me the Bengals plus 6 all day long. I'm sick of backing the Titans before losing my betting tip, but I will take my chances once again. I just cannot get myself to place a wager on the Browns to win by 5 points or more, so my final decision is to go with Tennessee plus 4. These 2 clubs occupy the last 2 spots in the league in terms of yards of offense per game. Indeed, Cleveland is 31st, while the Titans are 32nd. Shedeur Sanders is completing just 51% of his passes, along with 2 TDs and 2 interceptions. I know the Browns have a stingy defense, but how can you really feel comfortable about taking Cleveland to win by a margin of 5 points or more? I can't. I'm not going to discuss this game anymore. It should be a boring and ugly slugfest, so it's not worth spending more time on it. My weekly NFL Lobster Bet concerns the Washington-Minnesota matchup, so I will skip this game. If you wish to gain exclusive access to my #1 betting tip for Week 14, you are personally invited to follow the link in the comments below. Up next, the Bucs are favored to win by 8.5 points against the Saints. Should we bet New Orleans plus 8.5 or Tampa minus 8.5? It was not an easy call to make, but I ended up choosing to go with the Buccaneers laying 8.5 points. Rookie Tyler Shaw has not been awful, but he's had difficulty putting points on the board. He has played a significant role in 5 games this year, and in those 5 contests, the Saints scored 3, 10, 17, 10, and 17 points respectively. Now they will be on the road against a defense that did pretty well last week at home against Arizona. Granted, the Bucs have not beaten teams easily this year. Their 7 victories occurred by a margin of 3, 1, 2, 3, 11, 20, and 3 points. In other words, they were all tight except a couple of them. But the Bucs are slowly getting healthier. Bucky Irving and Chris Godwin recently returned to the field, and the team may welcome Mike Evans back fairly soon. He seems on track to return to practice this week, but I doubt that he will be ready to play a game this weekend. In short, I don't trust New Orleans' offense very much. They have scored 19 points or fewer in 7 straight games. Now, do they have a stingy defense like Cleveland that can keep them in the game? Not really. It is a decent unit, but not a strong one. The Bucs must win this game to stay atop the NFC South Division, and they have a lot to prove, so they will put maximum effort in this spot. I like the Bucs to win by 9 points or more. Next, I am betting the Miami Dolphins full game money line. They will be visiting MetLife Stadium to take on the Jets. Miami got off to a catastrophic start to their 2025 season with a 1-6 record. However, they have bounced back with 4 wins out of their next 5 games. Their only loss occurred against Lamar Jackson and the Ravens in Week 9. Miami's defense has been improving a lot. During the course of their first 7 contests, they squandered an average of 29.3 points. That figure dropped to just 16.2 across the 5 most recent matches. What a turnaround! Meanwhile, you cannot expect New York's defense to do miracles. They were already struggling to begin with, and now they recently traded 2 of their best players, Sauce Gardner and Quinnen Williams. Devon Achane must be licking his chops right now. The third-year tailback currently ranks 3rd in rushing yards with 1,034. Achane also owns the 4th best yards per carry average. He is a threat to score every time he touches the ball. Sure, the Jets have Breece Hall, who is also dangerous with the football in his hands. But he's not necessarily having his best season ever, and he may be the only weapon they have on offense. Tyrod Taylor and his group of receivers won't scare anybody. Losing Garrett Wilson to an injury gave a blow to this already weak offense. Tyrod Taylor has been okay this year, but nothing more. He has thrown 5 TD passes and 4 interceptions. Again, he was decent last week against the Falcons, but nothing spectacular. Personally, I trust more Tua, Jalen Waddle, Malik Washington, and Darren Waller. In short, to me, Miami has the better offense and the better defense. They are also trending in the right direction, and yet they are only small favorites. My decision was easy. I'm betting the Dolphins to win outright. Oh my god, we have a pivotal AFC South battle as the Colts will visit the Jacksonville Jaguars. These 2 teams are heading in opposite directions right now. I have often faded the Jags after their hot but fluky 4-1 start, but this time I will back them. More precisely, I am wagering on Jacksonville to pull off the mild upset. Indianapolis stormed out of the gate with a 7-1 record. Since then, they have gone 1-3. Meanwhile, the Jaguars are currently riding a 3-game winning streak. The injury bug is starting to bite the Colts. Last week, they lost star cornerback Sauce Gardner. He suffered a calf strain. He should be out for a few weeks. QB Daniel Jones played through a fractured fibula last week. He did what he could against a stout Houston defense, but it was not enough. Jones completed just 52% of his passes against the Texans. Did you notice how his two lowest outputs of the season, in terms of passing yards, occurred in his past two contests? In fact, he threw for 201 and 181 yards in weeks 12 and 13. If you take a look at the past 10 meetings between these two division rivals, Jacksonville has posted an 8-2 record against the spread. They play with confidence against the Colts. Brian Thomas is not having his best year, but acquiring Jacoby Myers from the Raiders was a smart move. He is slowly emerging as the team's top target. Last week, he caught 6 balls for 90 yards and a touchdown, further cementing his chemistry with Trevor Lawrence. Having tight end Brenton Strange back on the field has also boosted the team's passing attack. The Jags are improving on both sides of the ball. They are on fire and they will be at home, whereas the Colts are fading. Let's go with Jacksonville to pull off the upset this weekend. Nobody seems interested in winning the AFC North Division, but someone will have to do it. In my opinion, it will be the Ravens, and it all starts this weekend. Even though they did not look crisp last week, I will take Baltimore minus 5.5 against the Steelers on Sunday. Let's start with the negative stuff. The Ravens were sloppy last week. They lost 32-14 against Joe Burrow and the Bengals. They were doomed by 5 turnovers because they obtained 6.1 yards per play compared to a 4.8 average for Cincinnati. This was a wake-up call for Baltimore, and I expect them to be more focused this week. The last 2 meetings between these two hated rivals went in Baltimore's favor in a pretty big way. Indeed, the Ravens won 28-14 and 34-17. Baltimore did not look so good last week, but the Steelers looked even worse. Aaron Rodgers probably wonders why he did not retire instead of getting beaten up by younger guys on the football field. The team started with a nice 4-1 record, but they own a 2-5 record since then. Not only is the offense stalling, but their defense is worrisome. Last week, the Bills ran the ball 51 times for 249 yards, a 4.9 yards per carry average. Now, good luck facing Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson this week. Granted, Lamar has been hesitant to run since returning from an injury. Prior to that, he averaged 41.5 rushing yards per game, while that figure dropped to 19.6 since then. He's been playing like he's hurt, but perhaps the 10 days of rest will do wonders for him. I believe he could bounce back with a solid outing. Let's go back to Aaron Rodgers. He has been regressing as the season went on. Whether it's due to age or injuries, he's not playing at the same level. In his first 7 games, he tossed 16 TD passes, which means he threw 2.3 per match. That average has been 0.8 across his past 4 contests, after tossing just 3 touchdown passes in 4 games. Sure, the Steelers will be looking to avenge their elimination from last year in the wild card round, but I don't think it's going to happen. Baltimore will be at home for the 3rd straight week, so they are well rested. I think they will hammer the Steelers, so I will opt for the Ravens minus 5.5. During the course of their past 4 games, the Raiders have scored an average of just 11.8 points. They have not exceeded 16 in any of those contests. Now they are about to face Denver's defense, a unit that has given up the 4th fewest points and 5th fewest yards per game. Based on these facts alone, I am already sold on betting the Broncos minus 7.5 at Allegiant Stadium. As stated earlier, Vegas has a fairly high chance of putting 14 points on the board or fewer. That means we only need Denver to score 22 points or more to beat the spread. That should not be a huge task given how the Raiders' defense has been faltering lately. They have surrendered 30 points or more in 4 of their past 6 matches. The Raiders went through a successful run where they defeated Denver on 8 straight occasions. However, they have now dropped the past 3 meetings with their AFC West rivals. In summary, the Raiders have an awful QB and a dreadful offensive line in front of him. That obviously spells trouble, and the offense has been sputtering big time. The team seems to have already waved the white flag, while Denver is trying to capture the division title. They hold a 2-game lead over the Chargers right now, so they won't take their opponents lightly. Let's go with Denver minus 7.5 in Vegas. I have often faded the Bears this season because their underlying metrics are indicating that they are not very good despite the stellar 9-3 record. I will take the risk of looking like a fool by betting against them once more. More specifically, I am grabbing the Packers minus 6 at Lambeau Field against the Bears. My first argument supporting Green Bay is the fact that Chicago will be on the road for the 5th time in 7 weeks. They have had a lot of traveling to do, which is not an ideal situation. Meanwhile, the Packers are benefiting from 3 extra days of rest after playing on Thanksgiving. Jordan Love owns the 5th best passer rating in the NFL this season. On the other hand, Caleb Williams occupies spot number 22. At home, Williams has thrown 9 TDs versus 1 interception, compared to 8 TDs and 4 picks on the road. He has also been the victim of a lot more sacks as the visiting club. I'll say it once again. The Bears have faced easy opposition. The combined record of their 12 opponents this year is 54-90-1, a low 37.6% winning percentage. That is not super impressive. The Bears need their ground game to work for their offense to succeed. They are 6-0 when they run for 140 yards or more, but that is unlikely to happen this weekend. The Packers have given up the 6th lowest yards per carry average this year. They held the Lions to 46 and 119 rushing yards in their 2 meetings against Detroit. That amounts to an average of 82.5, whereas the Lions usually rush for 138 per match. Here is the icing on the cake. Ben Johnson has given plenty of reasons to the Packers to be mad at him. Back in January, he said, quote, "To be quite frank with you, I kinda enjoyed beating Matt LaFleur twice a year." End of quote. Johnson posted a nice 5-1 record against Green Bay during his tenure with the Lions. I'm sure the Packers will put the extra effort to stick it to him on Sunday. The Packers hold a huge edge in terms of the team's respective defenses. If you focus on the EPA per play statistic, Green Bay owns the 4th spot compared to 27th for the Bears. For all of these reasons, I have placed a bet on Matt LaFleur's squad minus 6 against the Bears. Next, I will roll with the Cardinals plus 8.5 at home against the Rams. Prior to last week, Matthew Stafford had thrown just 2 interceptions. Then he tossed 2 in the first half against the Panthers. He was also the victim of a lost fumble during this match. Could these turnovers shake his confidence? I'm not saying he will fall apart, but those giveaways could impact the quality of his play. Arizona has beaten the spread the last 2 times they met with Sean McVay's team. Last December, they lost by 4 points as 6.5-point underdogs, whereas they destroyed the Rams 41-10 as 1-point favorites in September 2024. Kyler Murray remains out of the lineup, which may be good news if you are backing Arizona. Jacoby Brissett has thrown for 313 passing yards on average since taking over the starting gig. In total, he has accumulated 13 touchdown passes versus just 4 interceptions. Those are great numbers for any backup QB. Last week, Bryce Young was able to do some damage against this Rams defense, so why not Brissett? At first sight, I was clearly going to bet the Texans on the road in Kansas City. However, after analyzing this matchup into greater details, I have decided to go with the Chiefs -3. First and foremost, we have the weather factor. It is projected to be quite cold on Sunday night in KC, with an expected temperature of 25 degrees Fahrenheit or -4 degrees Celsius. That is very, very bad news for any dome team that's coming from the south. Big advantage Chiefs here. Andy Reid's team has won the last 5 meetings with the Texans. In terms of betting, the Chiefs were 3-2 ATS. Kansas City has already lost against the Bills, the Chargers, and the Jaguars. All of these teams are fighting for a playoff spot, and they hold the tiebreaker over the Chiefs. KC just cannot afford to lose to another team in the AFC playoff race. Do you know the Chiefs' record at home in their past 15 December games? The answer is 14-1. They are so hard to beat under such conditions. Sure, the Texans are doing well recently with 5 wins out of their past 6 games. Their only loss was by a 3-point margin against Denver. Still, I think the Chiefs win this one by a margin of at least 3 points. They are getting 3 bonus days to rest after playing last Thursday. Meanwhile, the Texans will be on the road for the 3rd time in 4 weeks. There are so many indicators pointing in KC's direction. I've got to listen to those factors, so I am betting the Chiefs -3. The NFL Lobster Bet for Week 14 is waiting for you. Remember that this high-confidence betting tip has produced a mind-boggling 16-6-1 record since the very beginning. This means we have won 72% of our wagers. Get in the action so that we can grow your bankroll together. Don't forget that the pick comes with a money-back guarantee as well. I'm Professor MJ, your sports betting guide whose #1 goal is to help you earning extra money with your sports bets. I was a full-time university statistics professor for 15 years before retiring early in 2022 so that I could focus entirely on sports betting. I have been crushing online Bookie since 1999, and I have been here for you on YouTube for the past 6 years. Thank you very much from the bottom of my heart to all of you who have been supporting this channel. It's always a pleasure to help you out. I'll talk to you again soon. Subscribe to the channel if you have not done it already. Cheers, my friend!